Okay, so moving directly into adding parabolic troffers, or essentially lighting. So we're going to get right into adding parabolic troffers. What are parabolic troffers? It's a real fancy name for a light fixture. It's a light fixture that goes in an acoustical ceiling tile. We're all good with that? Everybody know what acoustical ceiling tiles are after last class? We talked about that at length, right? All right. As you're starting to see, the procedure for adding a component doesn't change based on the component you're adding. This is great news. Adding a troffer, however, is slightly different. You do not need to be in a ceiling plan, and you don't need to specify the face of the ceiling. Oh, hold on. You do need to be in a ceiling plan. Okay, that didn't make sense there for a minute. You do need to be in a ceiling plan, and you do need to specify the face of the ceiling. At this point, you may be good enough at adding these fixtures to simply look at the following figures and add the light yourself. Or if you desire a little help, follow these steps. In the project browser, go to level 1 ceiling plan. So not floor plan. We're going to go to level 1 ceiling plan. Zoom in on the northwest corner of the east wing as shown in figure 9.43. Which was this room that they have in the book rotated 45 degrees, but we don't have rotated 45 degrees because we're not going to rotate it 45 degrees. It just doesn't make good sense in that room. On the Insert tab, click the Load Family button. So we'll go up here to Insert, Load Family. Browse to the Lighting Fixture folder. Oh, hold on. Yeah, that's right, lighting. Because they're not a lighting fixture. Lighting. Architectural. Internal. Troffer light. 2x4 parabolic. And you want to make sure that the size you select is matches the size of the grid that you have. So if you have a 2x2 grid, you want 2x2 fixtures. If you have a 2x4 grid like we do, you want a 2x4 fixture. So we'll open that up. It'll take a second here to load. Click the Place a Component button. So we can go here to Architecture, Component. And by default, the last component we loaded should be here. Click the Align button on the Modify tab. That's this button right here. Align the light fixture to the grid shown. Oh, sorry. I have to actually place the light fixture. I missed a step here. So I'm going to go back to Architecture, Component, place this. And I'm going to drag it out here. Now, wouldn't it be nice if that just actually placed it where it's supposed to? Like, obviously, we're not going to have a fixture that's just floating in a grid like that. It's going to fill one of these cells. So we need to click on this, modify it, rotate it 90 degrees. And then we can use the Align tool to align this fixture into place. What I'm going to do quickly here is I'm going to populate this room. I'm going to show you what we were talking about with light spacing. So we'll copy this. Escape. Copy this piece. Finish my selection. Grab that intersection. Place one there. Because I didn't have multiple selected, I'll have to do this again. Alright, so this is a ideal, not ideal, but a pretty ideal layout for your lights. And the reason why, this is not in the book, so don't look for it in the book, but we're going to talk a little bit about how we laid these out. And I'm going to take and draw some detail lines to illustrate my point. I'm going to draw a detail line like this, and I'm going to draw it to here. I'm going to draw a detail line from here to here. And again, you don't need to follow along with what I'm doing right here. This is really just to illustrate a point to you about how we're laying these fixtures out. Let's see if I can't make this line different. We're going to make this a really wide line so it's easier to see. Let's take thin lines off. Alright, so that's a big, thick line now. And I'm going to match the attributes between those lines using MA to there. Alright, perfect. Mirror this. Oh, that's not what I wanted it to do.
I can't figure out where place a component work.
Under the architecture tab is where the place the component is.
Column?
This is like the worst way to draw a rectangle, but I'm getting there. I should have thought this out a little bit better. Alright, so you see the big black line that I have drawn around the fixture? I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy it. This is basically how the light will spread away from that fixture. And if I take that big black line, and I copy that big black line, just from the center of that fixture, the center of that fixture, the center of that fixture, what do you notice about the black lines? They don't really overlap, right? But if I say put more lights in here, what would happen to the larger rectangles? It would start to overlap. So I would get spots that had more light than they needed, and I'd get spots that had less light than they needed. So when you're looking at a room like this, you want to lay the grid out so that these lights and the spread of their light pattern don't overlap. And you can see the distance between this light and this light is 4 feet. And the distance between this edge of that light and that edge of the light is 4 feet. So light's going to spread essentially 2 feet. Does that make sense? I mean, it's oversimplification of what is actually occurring, but that's the way it should be. Now, if I took this grid, you know, because I can adjust this grid, and I move this grid 12 inches. All right, now, because the lights are attached to the grid, they moved with it. But if I move all the detail lines 12 inches also, let's filter that out and only select the detail lines, the wide lines. Okay. And I move those 12 inches. Oh, cancel. That was 12 feet. Again, filter that out. Only select the wide lines. Grab this and move it 12 inches, or 1 foot. What happens? Too much light against this wall, right? Not enough light against this wall.
Right.
So you say, oh, no problem. I'll just move this light over here and I'll add another light in. Right, so let's look at that. We move this light there, and we add a light here. Does that give us even lighting? Yeah, it'd be too much light for that room, right? It would be more fixtures than are needed. So there is an actual science, I don't want to say scientific, but there's a way to calculate exactly how many foot candles of light are being dispersed from the lamp. But in general, when you're doing your early layout and you're laying your grid out, you want to think about those things. Because your engineers kind of take whatever you give them, not as gospel, but they're not going to change your grid layout in your ceiling unless you tell them, hey, you can go ahead and change that. They're going to try to put the lights in that are needed based on where you've laid your grid out. So what I always like to do as an architect was lay out my ceilings and put my lights in. And say, this is basically what I want my lighting layout to be. Mr. Engineer, does it all work? And they would typically say, yeah, it works. So an issue that I run into all the time is nobody really takes ownership of that ceiling plan. If you guys look straight up here, how much stuff is in the ceiling? Oh, there's a lot. There's lights, there's smoke detectors, there's fire sprinklers, there's mechanical, there's a projector.
Yeah, but it's not overwhelming.
Well, somebody needs to decide where all that stuff goes, though, right? And if you leave it up to the contractor, what are they going to do? I didn't even have to ask the contractor this time. Yeah, they're gonna do whatever's easiest for them. Plus, the thing you have to realize is how many different contractors actually work on the ceiling. No, quite a few. And if you look at the ceiling here, look at where the sprinkler head is in relationship to that light. Right above your head. Yeah, not very good, right? I mean, if you look over here, the other side of the room, where's the sprinkler head in relationship to that same light fixture? No, it's one tile over. Somebody didn't think about it even in this room, even with a lot of stuff in the ceiling. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have a tool like BIM or Revit, take ownership of that ceiling plan. Put the fire sprinklers in. Put the return air and supply air ducts in. Put the smoke detectors in. Put the projectors in. And understand how they all work together. It's very rarely done, and I can tell you that it is always an issue. Every job you've ever worked on has been an issue, right? Contractor shaking his head. Yes, this is always an issue. So if you want it to be a specific way, which I recommend that you do want it to be a specific way, make sure that you're taking ownership of it and you're getting that information in your drawings. All right, so I know that was quite the tangent from the book there on those particular items, but I think it's important to talk about how these tools can be used to better use the tool to get a better result, right? All right, so I'm going to trust that you can work your way through the rest of the lighting portion. So in the interest of time, we're going to move right into casework because there's really no sense in you watching me add these lights to every single room. You can do that on your own. So I'm going to move on to adding casework and furniture, which is a critical part of what you're doing. Right, adding casework and furniture is the easier part of the chapter. That is, if you like the casework and furniture that comes right out of the Revit box, something tells me this isn't going to be adequate. For this chapter, you'll be using out-of-the-box items, but in bonus chapter 2, you'll make some custom millwork and families. So when you're working on your case study projects, the stuff may not be able to come right out of the box. So you may have to use the F1 key, use Google, look at the bonus chapter. You may have to figure out, hey, I got to extend my knowledge a little bit here by accessing some additional resources. Or, of course, bringing those questions to class with you. All right. So let's go to level 1 floor plan, not ceiling plan. And we are going to zoom into the northeast corner office. It has door 104 in it. So this office right here. Item 3 on the Insert tab, click the Load Family button. Everybody familiar, getting comfortable with Load Family at this point? It's really how we bring additional information into Revit. Browse the Casework Base Cabinets folder. Casework, Base Cabinets. and select the following item: base cabinet -4 drawers.rfa. Looks something like this. Hit open. But we're not just going to use one base cabinet. We're going to add some furniture as well. So we want to hit the load family button again. We want to browse to the furniture seating folder. And we want to load the following items: credenza, entertainment center, and shelving. So no, I'm sorry. Out here we load the chair executive. And one more time into load family, furniture, storage. And we want to load credenza, entertainment center, and shelving. And by holding control, I can select multiple of these, and it will load all of them at the same time. So I don't have to go back into load family each time. Right. Item 7, click the place a component button. Then in the type selector, select credenza. Alright, so let's go to architecture tab, component, and we want to go up to credenza, and it asks us to put in the 72 by 24. Alright. And it says place the credenza into the room as shown near the top of figure 9.49. Alright. By hitting tab, I can rotate this, right? And the credenza is going to go in this area. Done. All right. From the type selector, select chair executive and place it in front of the credenza. Oh, evidently this is where they wanted the credenza. So we'll delete this one. And we'll go back to component. We'll come here and we will navigate to executive chair. After a while, you can tell this is going to get pretty busy, right? There's going to be a lot of stuff in here. So I'm going to show you a different way to get there. You can also go down here in your project browser, and let me pull it over here. You go down here in your project browser, and you'll see it has a thing called families. And you can go under families and say, hey, I have a furniture family. I have a chair. Here's the chair executive, and you can just drag that in. Same thing, I can navigate that by using the space bar. Pull it in. The next item it wants us to put in there is the entertainment center. So I'm going to do that through here. Entertainment center, and 96 by 80 by 34, right? 30? And we'll drag that over. We'll use that button, and we'll drop it. And the last item is the shelving units. We'll do that from the type selector, just to show you it can be done both ways. What are the shelving? Maybe I'll do the shelving if I can find it. See, this is organized by alphabetical order. This is organized by category. I like the project browser easier. It helps me get to where I need to get quicker, in my opinion. But if you prefer using the type selector, that's fine. It's basically the same thing. And we're going to use shelves that are 36 inches. Alright. And these components can literally just be modified. Copy that. Make sure we're copying multiple. Good. We could also array this, right? If we wanted to. Great. So let's just take a quick 3D view and see what we've done. Oh no, I can't see anything. Why? Yeah, I put the camera in the middle of a door, didn't I? So I can't see the camera though either. How do I fix that? go to the view, and what you want to say is show camera. And it will temporarily show you your camera. If I move that camera just inside, and then go back to that view, I should be able to see my room. So that's a little trick that and if I had dropped lights in here, I could also see lights, right? So I'm going to drop some lights just in this room real quick so we can render this so you can see it rendered. Again, I'm a little bit off of where the book's at, but it's okay. I think at this point you guys, it's okay that we deviate a little bit so you can see some other things. So we'll go to ceiling plan level 1. And this is the room that we're working in, right? And we'll go to architecture component. And actually what I'm going to do is come down here and go to lighting fixtures, because that I think will be faster for me to find it. 2x4. Okay. Now in this room, it's a pretty big room, so I would probably ooh, that sucks, right? Is that really the way I want to lay out my lights? No, so as I'm laying out my lights, what would I do? I would take this and I would adjust it. And I'm only going to move it 1 foot. And what that's going to allow me to do is take this light, move it in, and take this light, I can do something like that, but the reality is I can probably get rid of this light and I'd still be okay. I'm about 3 foot away from there, I'm about 3 foot away from there. It's probably going to be okay. And then I would just copy these down.
Well, the light would specify the throw of the light.
Yeah, if I had to put a higher output bulb or something in there, I could do that. But you can see how actually starting to populate your model with real stuff, like lights, helps you make design decisions. It helps you decide how that grid should actually be laid out. So let's go back to the 3D view 3. And now we can see we've got our lights in there. And it's not super important that we put the lights in there so we can see them. We put the lights in there so that if I go down here and say, give me a ray trace view of this, if I don't have any lights and I do this, my screen's going to end up black. I have lights, it's going to give me an actual rendered view. Well, it's going to take a minute to do that. Okay, and realize that interactive ray trace mode is different than a rendering. So if I look at this, what do I see?
Darkness.
Yeah, I see my lights, but my light intensity is probably such that I need to adjust that to bring more light into the room. But I can do this and go, okay, I need to make those, excuse me. I need to make those lighting adjustments before I actually go to do a rendering. So let's just do that since we're here and we're talking about renderings. No close. Oh, well, yeah, that's fine. I can still go back to 3D view. I can select this light. Then I can start to look at the edit type. See what I can do here. This is all good information, but it's not exactly what I need. T12s. That's fine. That's the type of bulb. Okay. This talks about all the types of light that it actually emits. This is all very important if you're actually doing lighting calculations. If you're using it for rendering purposes, different than lighting calculations, right? We just want it to look a certain way. We're going to take this, and I'm going to pump that up. So instead of 80 watts, I'm going to put 800 watts, just to show you what it's going to do. I'm going to apply and hit OK. Now, what that should have done, we'll see here shortly. If I put this back into ray trace, give it a minute, I should have more light. Do I have physically accurate light at this point? No, because I've changed the light fixture. So you got to be careful about that and what you're actually using your model for. If I was using it for lighting analysis, I wouldn't want to go in and adjust those values. But if I'm using it because I'm going to render from it and a visualization purpose, then adjusting those light values becomes more important. And we'll see what actually occurred here. Okay, I didn't get very much more light, did I? So I would have to go and play around with that light, which we'll do later when we render. In fact, let's just do a little quick rendering to see how that renders. We did get more intensity, but we're getting a lot of light absorption. And I don't know off the top of my head why that is. But let's go in and I'll show you how to quickly do a render. Again, we're off of where the book is, but these are all good skills that I can do a render. I'm just going to do a draft render. And I'm going to tell it to use interior, sun, and artificial. Which, if there were any windows, it would use that. And we're going to render. And because this is draft, the quality won't be very high, but it should give you a pretty good idea of what the light levels and things of that nature. You don't want to start doing renders at the highest level. It would take you too long. Plus, you might do a render that takes 5-10 minutes for it to render and then decide, oh, I just need to make a real fine adjustment. So let's see. Whew, there we go. Those lights are really intense now, right?
Wow. You warm up.
But you can see it's only 15% done. Okay, so here's a draft of that. And it gives you an idea of what the materials are, what they'll look like, but it's still kind of pixelated, right? This little button up here, this says region, will allow you, with this red box, to render a very specific area. And I want to take and render that. Why it's not letting me move? There we go. I'm gonna.
That desk is facing the wrong way, by the way.
That's all right. We can fix that. I'm gonna reduce this to a smaller area, and then I'm gonna say, hey, I want that to be at a high. And we'll render that, and you'll see how long it takes just to do that small area at a high quality. And what you'll notice right off the bat is rendering is a long process. So why would anybody do it?
Presentations?
Yeah, well, presentations, it really helps convey your idea, right? It really helps people visualize things that they can't read a whole set of plans. And since you already have the information in 3D, this is not such a difficult step. there we go. You can see it. You can see how this is starting to become finer and finer each pass that it makes. So we're still at 57, 58. So you can imagine if we did the whole scene at high quality, it might take 10 or 15 minutes. Easily. And when I was in school, rendering like that might take a whole day. So you wanted to make all your adjustments well before you got there to find out, oh, my desk is the wrong direction. That sucks. My car doesn't actually touch the ground. My people are all floating. These are all mistakes I've made in renderings, and wanted to cry afterwards because it's like, oh, it's a 2-second thing to fix it, and a 10-hour thing to let it render. Again, you can see that's a better quality. So that's how to render inside of Revit. But there's this really great thing called Render in Cloud, which I'm going to advise you if you're going to do a lot of renderings for like your studio projects or even your case study house. You're going to want to become familiar with this. And basically what this does, it allows you to use Autodesk's servers to do your rendering. I'm going to see if I have any render credits here, and I don't know if I do. With students, I think you guys can log in and get unlimited rendering credits.
Oh, good.
So this is very easy to use. Next screen, select the 3D views and start rendering. All right, so you hit continue here. It's going to bring up all your 3D views that are in your project. And we know that our 3D view, well, see, it says I don't have any cloud credits available to me, but you would have cloud credits available to you. And you'd go in, you'd say, hey, I want to do 3D view 3. And this is your output. Do you want a still image or panorama? Panorama will actually let you navigate around the image. What size do I want the image? I'm going to put small in here. And then your exposure, if you leave it on advanced, you'll be able to adjust the exposure after it's rendered, which is really cool. Means if your rendering's too dark, you can adjust the exposure. So you're going to want to leave that on advanced, and then you're going to tell it what type of file you want. PNGs are always a good file, and I would always have it do a transparent background. And if I had credits at this point, I could hit render, and it's going to upload it to the cloud. And depending on how many other people are uploading to the cloud at the same time, it's going to start to render. The nice thing is you can still work on your file. You can send 10 renders at one time. You get to the end of the day, you can send all your renders, and wake up in the morning and all the renders are done. So this is a really powerful tool. I think all you have to do is sign up for Autodesk 360, and you guys may already be signed up because you downloaded Autodesk as students, and as students it'll let you, or at least it used to be able, you could render as many times as you wanted. As a professional, I don't have that same luxury, and it looks like I've used up all my cloud credits. So let's see if it has rendering cloud credits. Let's see, to see general Autodesk cloud credits, go to cloud credits. Yeah, so it's just a nice service, and like I say, as students, you can see here's the difference between like a final render and a standard render. I think as students you can get as many renders as you like. So just to reiterate that, don't think that you're just going to hit a button, it's going to render, it's going to be beautiful as your final image. It takes time. You need to adjust lighting, you need to adjust materials, you need to add stuff to the rooms to make them. Nobody wants to see a render of an empty room. You may even have to take the image after the fact into Photoshop and add some more stuff to it. So it's a tool to start to get you there, but yeah, it's not the end-all be-all. So let's get into putting casework in. So I'm on figure 9.53, basically. I'm going to close out of this view, and I'm going to just go back, pull my project browser up again, drag that right back underneath here. I'm going to go to my level 1 floor plan, and we're going to add some casework in. I think we're going to add the casework in this office right here. Okay. On the Insert tab, click the Load Family button. Browse to the casework folder. Load the following families. You'll have to choose from the appropriate folders in the casework directory. So we've got a bunch of base cabinets. It wants us to load this one, base cabinet 2 bin, base cabinet double door and 2 drawer, base cabinet door sink unit, base cabinet filler, base cabinet single door and drawer, countertop L shape. Well, that's not in here, so we'll load these first. Open that. It'll take a minute to load because multiple files. All right. We'll go back to Load Family, Casework, Countertops, and see the countertop it wants to load is the top L shape with sinkhole. Number 2. Great. We'll open that. And we'll go back to Load Family one last time, Casework, and we'll go to Wall Cabinets and load Upper Cabinet Double Door Wall. Okay. So now we have a bunch of cabinets loaded, right? Now I'm going to pull the project browser over here again because, again, I think this is going to be much easier to navigate to using the project browser because all my stuff's right here. Alright, load the file corner base filler from the Chapter 9 directory on the book's website. Okay. Let's go into Load Family. You recall last class period we put that information somewhere we knew we were going to be able to find it. So I did it under Documents, ADT 201, Chapter 9, Imperial, and corner base filler. That's a special family they want us to load in. It's going to have to upgrade that model. Now we have all our pieces to start with. Alright. Open the level 1 floor plan, zoom into the kitchen area shown in figure 9.53. Add the countertop, see figure 9.53. Alright, so we're going to come here and we're going to go to countertop, 24-inch depth, drag that over, and we've added a countertop. Press escape twice. Select the countertop. Alright, I can do that. Stretch the arrows and stretch the leg of the countertop to the end of the wall. Alright, so we're going to take this and we're just going to stretch that to the end of the wall. That was easy enough. Add the base cabinet double door sink unit 30 inches underneath the sinkhole with the north leg of the counter. That's here. So we want to come in, go to our base double door sink, and what size? 30 inches. So we'll drag that. That looks pretty good. Now just to make sure that we're not doing stuff backwards, let's go into view real quick. And we can grab a camera. And that looks right. Would you agree? Base cabinet, countertop. Let's close out of that. Takes us back to level 1 floor plan. The book actually asks us to create some interior elevations, which is fine. We can do that. Just come here, the view and go to elevations. And I want to create an interior elevation. And click there. And I'm going to select this and select that. So now I have 2 elevation tags. That's great. We'll close out of that one. We'll look at this one. Cabinet. You know, we might see something like this where, oh, that's not exactly the way I want it to look, so I can use the align tool and align those things. And come back into the floor plan, and that's more the way I want that to look. Alright, perfect. Pick the modify to get out of that command. So that takes us through figure 9.55. Rename the north elevation kitchen north and kitchen west. So if we click on, we go into our elevations here. We're going to see elevations, interior elevations. Elevations 1A and 1B. If I go to 1A, you can see it's the north, or the west side rather. And if I go to 1B, it's the north side. So we'll rename this kitchen north. And we'll rename this one kitchen west. Alright. I'm going to close out of that view. And that view. And now I'm back to the floor plan. Alright. The remainder of the procedure involves adding the rest of the cabinets. Let's do it. Author's so excited. On the Architecture tab, click the Place a Component button. Architecture Component. Again, I don't like doing it this way, but we'll do it this way so you can see it can be done either from the Project Browser or the Properties tab. From the Type selector, select Base Cabinet, Single Door, and Drawer 24 inches. Okay, Base Cabinet. Double door, single door, and drawer, right? And we want it to be 36 inches. No, it can't be 36 inches. Hold on. 24 inches. Alright, and we're going to place that no, I'm sorry, it has to be double door. There we go. That's a double sink, that's a double drawer, 36 inches. And I'm going to hit tab to get it in the right orientation. And I'm going to place it out there so that I can use the align tool to make sure that it's aligning exactly where I want it. And before I get too far along, I'm going to go check the elevation and make sure I have the doors facing the right direction. So now I've added this in. We're going to have 4 of these total. So I can either do this in the plan or I can do this in the elevation. Doesn't matter at this point. We'll do it in the elevation because we're here. Copy, multiple. So I don't know if you've ever drawn casework elevations in AutoCAD, but you couldn't draw it that fast. And you certainly couldn't get it where you have a nice 3D view of it that quickly. All right, I'm going to pause there and let you guys get going. So like I said, the rest of Chapter 9 is really repetition at this point. Go through, do Chapter 9. You're going to have to place components multiple times before you get familiar with and comfortable with placing them. But all the information is there step by step. Chapter 9 ends with you creating a material, which is very similar to what we did with creating the mahogany material earlier in the last video. So I believe you guys should kind of take this opportunity to do that on your own. Ask questions at the next class about things that you had trouble with, and really start to put these types of elements into your case study house. So download the type of furniture you're going to have in there. Download the cabinets. Start populating that, because you can see that very quickly you can add a large level of detail to your model, which will result in drawings that are more fleshed out.